ask yourself that question right now. Anything that you might be involved in, why am I doing it? And it became a really frustrating question for them on the first day. So they'd be like, well, why are you a teacher? And I was like, that's a great question. To open and cultivate a space where everyone feels safe to make mistakes.
Welcome to the Holomovement Awaken Your Purpose Podcast, where we interview incredible people that are living and breathing their purpose. And you can too. If you would like to support this programming, drop us a like or leave us a review. Now let's dive in. Hi, my name is Zenka Caro. I'm founder of LightNet, and my passion and purpose is making the impossible possible. I'm here today with Jason Sander, and he is a new integrant here to Sedona, and he comes to us from Calabar. He's a land steward, a community architect, and he really focuses on creating connection between people. And as you guys all know, that is the name of the game. It's really an honor to have you, Jason, joining us today.
Thank
Welcome.
You. May I just make one correction?
Yes.
It's Kanab, Utah.
Oh, Kanab, right.
Kanab.
Right.
That's where I was based, yeah.
Yeah, great. So Jason, what did you discover your purpose to be in this life?
That is a big question for all of us, and I think that's why we would tune into a podcast like this. And one of the things, I started out my earliest career was education, teaching. I started about 20 years ago teaching high school literature. Did that for about a year, and if anyone out there has ever been a high school teacher or a first-year teacher, it is a crucible. And if you don't know why you're doing it, you get tested every day. So in that first year, I realized something. It took me about 6 months into that first semester, or the first half of the year, before I realized if I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, I cannot really affect change. So I knew what I wanted to do, and that is to take this content and get people to learn it, change someone's life. That's what I wanted to do. But I had to realize that purpose-driven doing is the key to making connection. So I got to learn very early on in my educational career to inform what I do with my own interest, even if the content was different, to inform what I do with my why. And my why quickly became to create spaces where change and learning can happen. As an educator, as a healer, as a leader, oftentimes I found myself in a position where I know what people need. But I was realizing that approach wasn't working, and it wasn't failure, but I understood that that connection needed to be there. So what I decided to do was to not focus on what I was doing, but rather cultivate spaces where learning can happen, creating safe places where people could connect, where people felt seen and heard. And it seems really, I don't know, it seems abstract.
Nuance.
But we all know, being on the other side of it, when we walk into a café and it's done with purpose, we feel something, we connect. When people are doing something with intention, it changes the effect and the impact. So I started bookending all my classes in those early days. Later, I started teaching higher ed, and that took me to Seoul, South Korea. I was there for 8 years, and I was introduced to experiential learning and cross-cultural education, and that changed everything for me. So what I quickly realized is that I would bookend every class, no matter what the content was, whether it was I was teaching teachers how to teach, or teaching an English language class, or English writing, communications, presentations. I would bookend the very first day and ask, why are you here? And that seems like an easy question, but when you ask a university freshman, why are you here? They said, to get a degree. And I said, no, that's what you're here to receive. Why? And ask yourself that question right now. Anything that you might be involved in, why am I doing it? And it became a really frustrating question for them on the first day. So they'd be like, well, why are you a teacher? And I was like, that's a great question. To open and cultivate a space where everyone feels safe to make mistakes. So when I started asking people why they're doing things. It brought awareness to something that we're rarely asked in this world. What do you want? Well, I want a job. What do you do? I serve coffee. Why? So what inevitably happened is I started asking students specifically, and others who would come into the classroom, to think about this quick anecdote. When we were kids, most of us, when I was a kid, my dad would come in and say, clean your room. And I would, of course, say, why? I said, because I said so. That is a why, right? But it is not mine. And of course I did it. And I put things underneath the bed and I shuffled things off into the closet, and that was it. But then I had a friend that was coming over that I really wanted to impress, and I invited him over, and we were going to hang out in my room and do a project. And I had to clean my room. But this time, I was doing it in a way that was mindful. I was present to the actual experience of doing it, and my why was intrinsic. Not because I wanted to impress anybody, but because I wanted to have a space that would be best for creation. So when he came over, everything was done, and the impact of what I did had more of an impact, right? Because I did that thing with a clear purpose. So when I started informing that as a bookend for my classroom, we started cultivating purpose. And at the end of the classroom, I would ask them the same question, and they would all be able to speak to that why. Why are they here? Yeah.
Nice. I love that. Mm-hmm. I really, really love that. And it's in those questions where we get out of that automatic, kind of process that we get into, mm-hmm. where we're not even sure where we're at or why we're doing the thing. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for people that don't even know where to start on where their orientation is in life? Like,
don't build to the final outcome. Like, this is what I want it to be. Build to the natural next step, and that always begins with following your joy and excitement. I know it's said many, many times in many ways by different people, but that absolutely is it fun? Like, whether you're starting a band or, a community project, the idea is absolutely stay connected first and foremost to the joy of why you're doing it. And that is always a why. Like, if there's excitement, there's a why attached to that. So I would say, even if it's something that you want to do and the steps are going to be hard, finding that motivation and purpose really starts with feeling what it feels like to already have the thing. And if that is exciting, the what and all the challenges that present themselves will just become part of the process of the doing. And whatever it is that I always thought, like when I started, I had a business called Nomad, café and campground, and I was a land steward in Kanab, Utah. And I started this and set it up much like a classroom to create a safe space where people could be present. Now, I didn't know what it was going to look like. I just knew that I had all these limitations. And the first thing that came up was everything you need is already here. So any of the limitations then instantly got transformed into innovation possibilities. And I was excited about the concept of opening a space where other makers, other creators, people in the community in this town that has a lot of tourism could meet each other under like interests. So my advice is, if you have an idea, don't get caught up in the final product of what it will be, because the why, as your why starts to develop, other possibilities may unfold and then open up and create a what that you never expected. So oftentimes, I think a lot of people get stuck in the couch phase. This is the part where I'm on Pinterest all the time. I have this idea. I want to do this website. I want to make this candy company or whatever it is that I know is going to make the world a better place. And I can see it. It's there. And I want to build to the final outcome. What I found is that is not a mistake necessarily, but a lot of things happened in between what I thought it was going to be and what it needed to be were very different. So don't get stuck on the couch. Success really starts whenever, you have an idea that you feel so strongly about that the opportunity to follow even step one, whatever that is more important than the possibility of failure, right? Like the need to create this thing outweighs my fear. Really, when it comes to finding a purpose, it has to do with me just getting in touch and being aware of what my fears are, you know, and not allowing that to inform what I do. So I think a purpose really comes from an embodied knowing of what it feels like to already have that thing exist. I think most of us makers, I'm not making it for myself. I just want to see it exist. It's like nothing's impossible. You do these things, and in our conversations before, you do these things because they're fun, not because they're not rife with challenges, but the concept of knowing and wanting to see things exist that connect people in a way that we know will make the world a better place. And the mission statement for everything I've ever done is create and cultivate and steward spaces that will connect people through like interests so we can freely share our individual gifts and collaborate in order to manifest that which we haven't yet seen in the world. Does that make any sense?
That's why I love you, Jason.
Oh, I love you too.
You have it very eloquent in everything you've said in the last, whatever the 10 sentences. Yes, your phrase, but also these other phrases, that are coming in are just so clear. And that's the sign of you as like this, this well-honed teacher. And it's really great to hear you. What was the biggest struggle you faced over the years in living out this purpose to create these environments for people to connect?
The biggest challenges? I always thought they were external. But as on your website, sometimes when you look back at a project in hindsight, it's hard to see the thing in linear time, but looking back, it gives me an excellent opportunity to really understand what the challenges were. The challenge for me is to stay connected to my purpose. Checking in with that as that purpose evolves, and then becoming identified with the project itself. So any slight to it was a slight to me. Keeping a higher perspective and always staying in touch with why I'm doing what I'm doing. That was one of my biggest challenges. And that really just came through practice and also getting it reflected back by all of these people that would be coming in and surrounding me in the community. This last project that I had was rife with challenges because, one, I was a teacher, not a business operator, not an entrepreneur. All of those fears, had I known, people always said, looking back, the challenges, I probably wouldn't have done it, but that's why it worked. And by worked, I mean I was successful in so many ways, but not successful in some of the parts of business. One of my biggest challenges, was just staying true to my purpose and not getting caught up in the detail of, well, what happens if this doesn't work? Like, who am I without this project? I got so lost in it at one point that my biggest challenge was just knowing who I was and why I started, and that's disorienting. And that was my biggest challenge. If you want to know specific anecdotes, I could give you many. But my biggest challenge was, staying connected to my why. And there was no failure in it. It was absolutely part and integral to the process of growing into where I feel I'm finding myself now,
Yeah, I think it goes down to Standing Bear used to say, it's not what you leave for the people, it's what you leave in the people. So it's not about the thing that you're creating, it's about the thing that you're leaving as incorporated into the life, the connection, their healing or whatever. The higher order for you could be even the healing work or the you building these innovations. There's all these side benefits that come from this environment that you create where people feel themselves and they can contribute. So great.
And it can happen with any type of project. I mean, even if your project is a cafe or it's experiential learning opportunities, you want to do something to educate kids through the elementals. I have all of these ideas, but one of the things that I found myself realizing that purpose is important. Purpose gives direction. But the action gives it form, right? So whenever I'm talking about specifically Nomad, and one of the things, why is it called Nomad? It's, to your point, this idea of the lasting legacy of when we get to engage with someone doing something consciously, whatever it is, whether you work at a gas station, you have the possibility of changing someone's life for the better and leaving more life in the room than before you arrived. Ultimately, what we're doing is planting seeds. And the idea of nomads are not people that listlessly move from one place to the other. I have found in my own experience, not just with a place that I was trying to root to and anchor to a place, which is now gone, by the way. The idea of a nomad is a person that can arrive anywhere and know a sense of home. And what they bring and the connections that they make then make a lasting impression on them. And the next place they go, then those seeds are propagated elsewhere to serve that community or someone else's idea. And that's the whole purpose of the nomadic idea, is when I go to a place in Sedona, a cafe, and I walk in and I feel instantly at home. It's not because it looks like home. It's because someone has put everything they've got into that place. Every screw, every clock, they know exactly why it's there. I know that. And when I walked into Chocolate Tree the other day, and I was like, yep, I don't even know what they serve. I just know that it made a connection. And that, through purpose-driven doing, any business that we make, any website that we make, has a deeper subtext. And that is to create familiarity and connection, and then meaningful conversations can then follow. Whether it's a classroom, I learned it in the classroom, but then I made my business just like a classroom, a safe place for people to make mistakes. They don't have to perform, they can become present. And the relationship aspect of how we bring creative offerings is, what relationships are we cultivating? Deeper, not just a building, but this is a home, not just lands where you camp or where you rent a night in a hotel, but the actual setting is no longer extracted. It becomes a player, and it becomes something that the relational aspect. When people are on vacation, I worked in hospitality. One of the things, when you go on vacation, have you ever found yourself saying, wow, coffee tastes better in San Francisco? Why?
Yeah, in Turkey.
Is it maybe in San Francisco the coffee is actually better, perhaps? But the idea is that people go to McDonald's and they're like, this McDonald's is better than McDonald's in Omaha. Yeah. No, it's not. What's the difference, do you think? When we're on vacation.
It's the placement of it, what you said. Like, it's the intentionality of what went into the creation of the environment you're in.
Absolutely. But also, when I'm on vacation, I am not in my routine. I'm present.
Yeah.
And when we can cultivate spaces to bring people present, and that anything that you are doing right now is an opportunity to create presence and awareness where someone can then have an experience and not be anywhere else, that changes the world. Yeah. No matter what your what is, that purpose being to connect people, opportunities to cultivate spaces, whether it's learning or gardening. And I say this often, like, if I'm a gardener, which I am not forcing growth. I'm cultivating the conditions in the soils where growth has the best possibility. And I trust the life to do its job.
Yeah.
Like, if I were working in hospitality in Sedona, let Sedona do its thing, right? Like, it has its own magic, just helping bring people present, you know? Yeah. And they say the expectation robs joy, right? I saw it a lot whenever people would come and they would wait their whole lives to see Zion National Park, and then they would come disappointed and say, oh, it was crowded and it was hotter than I expected. And I was like, well, what I suggest is go out back here in our canyon, walk for 5 minutes in any direction, sit down, and then come back and talk to me. They didn't expect it. Therefore, this was the best part of my journey, but just having a coffee here and talking to you. You do that every day. Why was it special? You were present for it. Right?
Interesting. That's very powerful, Jason. That's something you have an effect on the room, you have an effect on the world by creating these environments and these places to be present. What do you think the world would look like if a majority of people on the planet were living their purpose?
I already know what it feels like to be there because I've witnessed it, and I'm sure you've witnessed it too. Because I have had experiences where I saw people connect in a way in a room that was devoid of any kind of performance, when the purpose was simply to share a space and share truth. Everyone is sovereign then in their own purpose, and nobody is trying to manipulate anyone else. Ultimately, when we act in our sovereign purpose, we don't see anything as competition. We see everything as opportunity and collaborative possibility. And it sounds kumbaya and like this impossible outcome. But I would like to ask everyone who is watching this and someone you know has ever done anything with purpose. You have embodied something and it feels different. Doing things with purpose changes the world for the better. Because ultimately what it means is that we found, in a sense, a baseline of peace. And my what is not contingent on any outcome. When I'm operating in purpose, and that purpose is fueled by joy and excitement, ultimately what it happens is we light up every room we walk into. I think of purpose as a light in my chest. And if I am worried about that purpose being snuffed out, I'm protecting it, right? If we could all just know, and purpose doesn't have to be the life's purpose. Like a purpose could be, I'm going to go out today. Before I leave, I'm going to splash some water on my face, and I am going to walk into a room. I'm going to go to the bank and not yell at anybody today. My purpose today is to make every conversation an invitation. Say that's my purpose today, and listen more than I speak. Watch what happens to your day, and watch what happens to the same person that may have yelled at you yesterday. What it ultimately means is that we are connecting in a place that doesn't require the other person to change. So I don't need to know what got you here to your place of purpose, but I always know and recognize when someone is doing something with purpose, and it's inspired. So how does it make the world a better place? How could it not? It brings everybody into an alignment of doing what serves others. Because I can't think of if your purpose is, I'm here to make money and dominate and put everybody out of business, I can smell that like a fresh pizza when I walk into your pizza shop. So I think that we all recognize soul when we run into it, and authenticity. And we also know in the back of our heads when we're being guarded and trying not to be taken advantage of. If we are all sovereign in our purpose, we don't see the other as being anything but an ally.
Baseline for peace, like you said, Jason.
Baseline for peace. And peace doesn't mean things aren't falling apart. What it means is, I know that right now, even though I have a lot of challenges, I just lost my business. I am in a new environment where I have so much uncertainty. What I have learned through that process is that my peace and my nervous system is not defined on the success of my project, or when this happens, then I can be okay. What I've realized is that when I operate from that baseline of peace, the words flow, the connections, the miracle, and all the manifestation that we think is out there is actually happening right now because I'm not missing it. When I'm operating from a baseline of peace, that means that everything that then happens around me gets transmuted into a gift. And I'm not saying that there aren't real problems, like how am I going to eat? Like where am I going to stay tonight? What am I going to do? I've got 2 kids and I just lost my job. I'm not talking about challenges, but who am I becoming through the process of that adversarial environment? Who am I through the process? If I am at peace, then that begets other peace. I become peace is my baseline, then no matter what happens, it's in service of myself and others. I'm not talking about peace in a hippie way either. I mean like real peace, knowing that my peace is now and is not contingent on things falling into place.
Yeah, that is so beautiful, Jason, because what you're emanating, you I guess receive back, and that's part of probably how this all works. So thanks everybody for joining us today. This has been a really great conversation, Jason, and it really, it's going down to these fundamental things that we're always talking about, like calm, presence, not missing the miracles, staying connected and living in our values and finding a way to do that. Thank you so much, Jason, for being a teacher, a healer, an organizer, a land steward, and doing all the work you're doing to make us feel so calm that we can actually connect.
Yes. And if you'd like more information about budding projects in the Sedona area, I am, though I had a place called Nomad, I have something called Project Nomad. And we didn't really talk a lot about that, but one of the things that I have done through my other projects and what I plan to do is connect. I'm not here to change anything. I'm here to find out who's already doing the good work, connect those people, network those people, and also bring very conscious events to the area as well, using the people that are already here doing the good work, connecting them with other communities I worked with in the past, and then connecting those communities. It's called Project Nomad, and I will have some more information, clickable links.
That is so great, Jason. That is so great. Yeah, this is really a time where these silos that we've been creating, these communities, with the Holomovement, Beyond, with Project Nomad, with Origin, there's so many projects right now that are starting to build this coherent field of, I'm standing up, I'm not influencing you in a detrimental way. Like people are able to be sovereign in what they're bringing, live and let live. And it's really nice because we're developing a great network together. And
empowering communities from the bottom up. And the first thing that we need is a place to meet each other. And thank you for doing the work that you do, because this is a place where we can all meet each other, be inspired, reach out. I love collaboration. And I'm just honored to be here and meet you. Thank you for doing the work that you do, and everybody behind the scenes. I appreciate this opportunity. And just connect to your why, y'all. Connect to your why.
Shout out to Zaz, who is our engineer here at the Holomovement Purpose Lab, Awaken Your Purpose Podcast. We'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us today. It is our goal to give you the courage to begin to identify your passion and live your purpose for the sake of yourself and for the sake of us all. Over the course of this multi-year collaboration and research project, we have identified patterns and a 7-stage process that many people go through on their way to living their purpose. If you'd like to browse our archive or figure out what stage you're in, head over to holomovement.net/purpose. If you would like to browse our living library of resources, or if you found your purpose and want to contribute what worked for you, head over to lightnet.org/purpose. And as Mark Twain used to say, the most important day of your life is the day you're born and the day you figure out why. You're not alone. We will look forward to helping you on this incredible journey. This has been a collaboration between Holomovement, LightNet, and incredible people like yourself. Special thanks to Good of the Whole. We'll see you next time.